Well, that goes way back to 2002 at the 47th conference of the American Council on Consumer Interests. St. Lucia, at the time, through the Ministry of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, was a member of the American Council on Consumer Interests, ACCI. And we attended that conference in California, Universal City, California. And during that conference, I happened to have made a plea for assistance to help develop consumer protection, strengthen the institution, the Consumer Affairs Department in St. Lucia. And then Professor Jane Kolodinsky of the University of Vermont, who was one of the presenters during that conference, came to me after I took the floor and said, well, the University of Vermont can help. We can assist. And then we, from that time, we started the discussion. And that is where we are today. A number of things happened in between. From 2002, 2003, Vermont sent two of the professors to St. Lucia to explore the possibility. We had J. Ashman, Professor J. Ashman, and his wife, Meg Ashman. They came to St. Lucia to start the process of the cooperation, the mutual cooperation. And in 2004, we had the signing of the mutual cooperation agreement. It was endorsed by the Cabinet of Ministers and the Ministry of Commerce, the permanent secretary at the time, signed the mutual cooperation agreement, and then Vermont signed it as well. So 2004 started the process of the mutual exchange. The mutual exchange really and truly led to Vermont assisting in whatever way possible to strengthen in our institution what is called the Consumer Affairs Department. A number of benefits one can think of. The training of our staff in consumer matters, in research techniques, because we have benefited in country from interventions by the lecturers from the University of Vermont, whether it be consumer law, research techniques, and so on. We have also sent staff of the ministry to Vermont to undertake short-term, to 1 week, 2 weeks training in consumer matters and other areas. Vermont, on the other hand, the University of Vermont, on the other hand, has also benefited by this annual exchange. Students coming to St. Lucia, and they have taken a number of research projects. There was this light bulb project. They have done a number of surveys as well with transportation. And one of the hallmark of this exchange is that there are a number of areas in St. Lucia, Miku, for example, where they have undertaken what you call renewable energy projects, wind projects, wind turbines, and also small hydro power in the Miku Latil waterfall area, as well as Poile. So, but in addition to that, we have had a lot of other areas. For example, you have had things such as working with schools, school gardening projects, and so on. A number of these things they have been able to do over the years, in addition to this in doing other types of research. Basically, I was a price control inspector from 1990, so I more or less came through the ranks, although I left at a certain time in 1995 to pursue further studies in the United Kingdom. But then when I returned, I was placed at the Ministry of Commerce. And then thereafter, you know, my interest, because of this grounding from the earlier days in price control matters, I had to make the transition, seeing that consumer protection was much broader than mere price control. You had to look at the consumer education, research work, investigation. You also had to look at policy development, because at the time a number of things were taking place. For example, you had within the region what you call the CARICOM Single Market and Economy. And there is Chapter 8 in the revised Treaty of Chagaramas, which deals, in part 1 deals with competition law and policy. Part 2 of Chapter 8 deals with consumer protection. Also, parallel to that, you had work starting with, work well in train, well advanced with the United Nations on what is called the United Nations Guidelines on Consumer Protection. Organizations such as Consumers International was doing a lot of work around that time, and they still continue to do a lot of work in terms of advancing consumer interests. And therefore, it provided that fillip, it provided a platform to take off. And during that time, there was a movement that was very aggressive and active, what was called the Caribbean Consumer Consultative Committee, trying to bring the consumer bodies within the region, the CARICOM region, the Caribbean region, together. And I must say I was at the forefront of the 4 Cs it was called. And St. Lucia at the time played a pivotal role in advancing consumer interests. We were able to get the 4 Cs up and running. We had the likes of Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, and the other member states of CARICOM. We had both government consumer agencies and consumer NGOs working together to have a voice in the region that could speak on behalf of consumers. I initiated it, but really and truly, the annual visit, I believe it has both social and economic impact in the country. And we may not be able to measure it by way of dollars and cents, but if you do that assessment, you may find that we have benefited tremendously. And as I said, both in terms of human resource development, social development, because there's some programs going on. Some schools have benefited. Vermont has, even donated computers to schools, labs in certain schools in St. Lucia. They have also, they gave books to several schools on island. So really and truly, I believe these are some of the things that we, looking back, I believe it's not me personally, but I believe that the country as a whole, and certain institutions, schools, farmers, the fishermen, and so on. We had the fisheries complex in Poile, Latil Waterfall, and so on. So I think we have seen some kind of social benefit and economic benefit to the country. Because every year they come, they spend, they use the services, they use the resources. So it is money going to the economy as well. So one may have to look at it from all these angles.